Another little update, training update for everybody. We want to talk about the dust system today. Lately we've been having a few more problems than is necessary with the dust system. We shouldn't be having these kinds of problems that we're having. And it's basically self-inflicted by us because we're sucking up too big a material and trying to drive it in the Vacumaid part of the dust system. This is made for fine stuff, not big stuff, curly stuff, you know, fine stuff. So when you're using the vacuum system, it'd be greatly appreciated if you would use fine stuff in the hoses, and if you have stuff that is bigger than what normally would fit in the hose, we have these nice little dust pans around. We have push brooms, we have the small broom, we have the trash receptacle here for you. Dump it all in, not somewhere else on the floor, but clean it up. So when we come in today to shoot this video, we walk over here and we start getting ready to go, and then we see that the phrasing in here of leave it better than you found it, we almost made it with the table saw brush because it almost made it to the pit. Almost. Almost got there. But anyhow, so the vacuum system, there's a blue side, as you can see here. The other side of the shop is the green side, so if you're going out back, the vacuums are both taped up so that you can see exactly what's there. Now, up here behind me, up by the ceiling, we have the lights, the blue and green light. So when this is energized, you can see that it's on. Now, if you hang this up and you don't put it all the way down in there and you leave it, it continues to run, and that's when we start to pop the breakers and the vacuums out back. So we want to make sure that we're getting everything right. So cleaning up is important. Now also with the cleanup, seems like on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, those are barrel days. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, barrel days. Go out, dump them, dump the vacs. Don't forget the small vac all the way down at the other end in the finishing area. We dump them all. Now, if you're not capable of dumping the barrels, or there's a lot of people here that day, then we divide the work up a little bit. So if you're not going to go outside and do barrels, you have to stop working. You have to find one of these brooms, one of these dust pans, whatever will work, and start cleaning up the area that you're in at that time. Or if you see an area that needs some attention that normally hasn't been getting it, go to that area. But anyhow, no working when we're doing the barrels. Half out for the barrels, half could be in here in the shop, but you have to be cleaning, moving the brooms. Don't use air hoses. Don't get a bunch of stuff in the air. Just sweep up. That would greatly help out our shop for its cleanliness part. We want to be nice and clean. We want it to look good. You know, when you come up and use a piece of equipment, you want it to be ready to go, but you don't have to clean it prior to doing it. So, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, barrel dump. Half in, half out, sweeping, cleaning up, those outside. Be cautious with what you're doing. And we're going to move outside right now to talk about the outside operation. Okay, so now we're out back where the cans are that we're going to dump. We want to make sure that we do it safely, cleanly, and make sure everything stays in good working condition. Now we're running into the warmer weather again. Our sign on here says 80 degrees and above, the doors should be open. And what we mean by that is when we're in operation in the shop, you can slide these doors open and use the hook and get them out of the way. Just leave the doors open and let them run. Also on the compressor, leave the doors open to let it run. 80 and above, we want to make sure the doors are open or we create too much heat in here, even with the vents in the roof. And it starts to cause some problems with our equipment. So we want to make sure that everything is getting the proper amount of ventilation so we're not heating up and popping the breakers. Okay, as we come out, if we just back up just a little bit here, as you know, we have to turn off the power. So you have the air compressor and you have the vacuums. So you would turn this power off. It's not hard, pretty simple. Everything's off. Then we go down and do our work. Now, when we go down here to take care of business, we have to make sure that our lights go out. That means there's no power in there on the units. Also come over here to these two breakers. This is for the big dust system. And we want to turn these off. One's for the shaker motor, one's for the drive motor for the dust system. People get in a hurry sometimes to put the barrels back together, or they watch somebody put the barrels back together and they're just kind of standing out there. They want to get back to their project. And the next thing you know, they're running in the door to the monitor because they see the barrel set there, even though the sleeve may not be hooked to it yet. And then I'll give them a thumbs up and yeah, go ahead and start up. Monitors, make sure you look out the door. But for the folks that are out here working with it, so that it doesn't get turned on before you're ready, turn these breakers off. Turn them off. When you're done, the last person walks away, turn the breakers back on. That's the person that should be telling the monitor that everything is set. The last person walking away from here should be able to tell the monitor everything is good. So, with that being said, just keep that in mind when the power is. Make sure we're controlling it again. We don't want to get anybody hurt. Now, in here in the little vac room with the Vacumaid, we have a fan that sits up here in the corner. We leave that running all the time, and it drives the heat up through the vents to try and keep the area a little cooler in here. We have grills in the doors and we have openings in the bottom, but it just seems like it doesn't get enough air. So we have this fan running all the time in here when the vacuums are in service. So we have a stool so that you can look in these. We have a small hand vac back here so we can clean it out. One more thing with the fan on the plug that we use back here for the fan. This box is a junction box that we had to change a feed in. So it's marked that the plug for the fan is in the bottom and the vacuum is in the top because the vacuum sends a signal. So we want to make sure that that's the way it's set up. I have the fan unplugged right now so that you can hear us while we're talking about what goes on in here. But normally this fan just sits in here and it sits on an angle like that. And it's running and it's blowing up that way and it's pulling the air out of this building to keep turning it over as much as we can to try and keep it cool. So when we were inside, I was talking about the heavy material versus light material for the dust system. So what we have here, this is what I'd call heavy material. It's kind of tough for that to go up through the vacuum system. Remember, it's more for fine dust and different things like that. If it's bigger, get a shovel. If it's small, minute dust type material, that's all fine. But the bigger stuff, we want to make sure we're not sucking it into these. The last couple times we've been out here to change the motor heads, you come up here, this is part of the regular cleaning process, is you lift the lid off, set it over, and then there's a screen here on top. Now what happens when we get the bigger particles like I just showed you on the shovel, this builds up right here and it kind of lifts the lid and there's no more suction, but it will not pull it down through into the bottom can. So we want to keep it clean. We have the vacuum here. So if you had to use a vacuum to clean it, you can do it. You plug it in. You have your screens up there. You make sure everything is good. Everything looks great. Just make sure everything is seated well. Okay? And you're good to go. And this one looks, I'm just cleaning out this little bit of crud that's in here. So we know that everything is good. So then you have the vacuum. You can plug it in on this side. There's a plug right down behind me, a duplex plug. And then you suck out the top. Okay. Once you're done sucking out the top, make sure there's an 1.5 inch tube in the center. Make sure you run down that a little bit to clean that out. Just a little bit. This fits right down in there, so it works well. Once you got this all clean, you make sure your screen is all laid down nicely. Got all the ends in the way it needs to be, and you're good to go. Take your vacuum down, hand it to whoever they're helping you, and you can get it done. Once that's done, put the lid back on. There is a lip, there is a gasket, so put it there and rock it back and forth so you know you're hitting. If it slides past, you're not on right. You should hear that little banging when you rock the lid back and forth. That makes that work out properly. On the bottom, see, this one's turned around totally the wrong way again, because normally it has marks. Okay, so when we get here, you can use 2 hands if you'd like. What I'm going to do is turn this around for you. The inside piece wasn't put back in properly, so we will put that back up in there. We'll pull it out. So everything about this, from the last time it was put together, was wrong. Okay? Make sure your edges look good. Everything looks good. Look it over. Okay, see the orange tab? That goes over here. Then this unit goes up underneath right here. Hook it on. Hook it on. It's really simple. It's not hard. If you have to fight to push the dogs down, then we know it's not right. Don't do it. If it goes hard, you just don't have it seated right, or there's a problem with the gasket. So we want to make sure that everything is right. Then in the next can, this is a fine can. Again, same kind of lid as on the other one. And this one has a bag in it. Again, we run these bags to about 3/4 full before we change them. And it just pops out. You slide this piece out, slides into this one, pull the bag out, slide this, put the bag in, slide this in, and connect the bag to this pipe on the inside. There's a half-turn flange on the back side of it. Again, there's a groove, there's a gasket. This goes up here. Make sure it's on, make sure it's seated. It's pretty easy. It's pretty easy. Not a lot of problems with it. Make sure everything is good. Turn them on, check them. Run your hand around. Make sure your seal is good on this. You want to make sure it's working properly. Okay, so this is the blue side. This, of course, is the green side. You can see the notes. We leave notes on different things. If something has to be remembered, like where the fan goes in, where the vacuum plugs in. How it does this one, it doesn't matter. You can use either or. But anyhow, green, blue. So if you're telling somebody you have a problem, or you're talking to a monitor, or someone's calling to get someone to help them out, tell them the green system or the blue system. It's pretty easy. The biggest thing is don't suck up too big of material. If you get that big material in there, you're just gonna, there's a breaker right here, and it only fails so many times, and then it just gets weaker, and then we have to pull it all apart, pull the motor out of it to get in there to put a new breaker in it. So you want to try not to overwork it. When you're inside and you're cleaning up, if you stop to talk to somebody and you're standing there and you're holding the hose and it's running and it's running and it's running, you're building heat out here. Use it, get done, hang it up. Put it back in the holder. The holder is the shut-off. It takes some of the workload off of this vac system. We have a lot of long runs, so we want to make sure we're taking care of it, keeping the maintenance down on it. I am exploring actually right now another way of hooking up the dust system. We're maxed out on our big dust system, but I'm going to researching right now whether we can tie in a couple 1.5 inch lines some places for the heavier materials, so that we can just send them direct to the big dust system and not to the Vacumaid. So That's a work in progress. When I get somewhere with it, I'll be glad to let you know how it's going. But we're going to try and refine this operation and make it even simpler and less maintenance. So we'll just grow into it. But that's how we need to do it. Remember, turn your breaker on when you leave. This breakers for these are controlled on this side. And the dust system, the big dust system, the breakers are controlled on that side. Make sure you turn off the power before you work on the equipment. Turn the power on to test it. If you're working on the Vacumaid cans, you do not turn on the power for the big dust system. The folks that are working with the big dust system, when they are satisfied that the sleeves are on, the barrels are all hooked up, the straps are tight, they will turn that power on. If you didn't work on it, stay away from it. Just stay with what you're working with. Don't try to jump back and forth because you might miss a step. And we don't want anybody to get hurt. The big thing is safety. Safety first. Take your time. Don't rush. Don't run with the barrels. You know, I see sometimes we got some quick moving going across this lot. So we want to be safe. Keep it safe. Use the walkways that go around. Be careful if you roll the cans off the end. Some of these cans are heavy. So if you roll them on there and then all of a sudden you got to catch all the weight, hurt a shoulder, hurt your back, hurt your knee. It's not worth it. Roll them out. We got the carts. Roll the barrels down there, dump them in. We will have our dumpster back up here shortly as we get the changes and the updates going with the back building. It'll all come together quickly, but we will have our dumpster back up here when it's all said and done. Okay, questions, comments, concerns, again, give me a call. If you got anything on your mind, let me know. Catch me in the shop. Talk to any of our board members. Okay, thank you very much. Stay